We are Christina,
Oneida,
Alicia,
Colleen.
Welcome to 4NPs Podcast.
This is a podcast by 4NPs. 4NPs, advanced practice nurses, students, and anyone interested in the medical arts.
That's the number 4 NPS podcast.
If you have a topic you'd like to see covered, please feel free to email us at 4npspodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us through our social media.
Thank you for joining us. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing Kimberly Ottensmeyer. Kimberly is a mom of 4, a family nurse practitioner, and the host of the 5-Minute NP podcast. Through her own transformative experience, Kimberly started a podcast to share what she learned on her journey to a good health, wellness, positive mindset, good sleep, and longevity. Kimberly's message is one of our thoughts become our actions, and her hope is to inspire others to act on behalf of their own life by living each day with intention. She interviews impactful people in all areas of health, wellness, longevity, mindset, inspiration, and motivation, and includes topics in support of energy, good nutrition, healthy mind, and vitality in life. You can find Kimberly on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the 5-Minute NP and at the5minutenp.com. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining us. We are so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
I've been listening to your podcast, and I think it's really great. There's a lot of wonderful information. My favorite so far has been your interview with Jen Stevens. I think she's so cool.
Yeah, she was great.
She's just like this wealth of information, and she's just so nice and friendly. I just love her.
Yeah, she was.
So you said that you created your podcast after overcoming struggles in your life. So I just wanted you to kind of elaborate on that, or like what brought you to starting a podcast.
Well, good question. I had just went through the worst year of my life. I had was trying to finish NP school. I was doing my rotations, working full time, and I'm raising 4 kids. And, and then throughout all of that stress, I started developing this severe back pain. And, I'm always healthy, and it started radiating down my butt, down to my leg, and just becoming more severe. And suddenly, I'm trying to do my OB rotations. I can barely sit down, and it just kept progressively getting worse, and my joints started to hurt, and then my GI, my gut was a mess. I mean, I was just a mess. I was stressed out of my mind, hurting everywhere. I'd lost my appetite, dropped 10 pounds. I would come home from clinicals and just be crying, and my kids were looking at me like, "Are you my mom still? I mean, what is going on?" I was just always so strong and healthy, and I was falling apart. I mean, I was seeing the GI doctor, I was seeing the spinal doctor, I was trying to do all that while finishing school and working full time. And so I wore myself down. I was losing my health, really. And I was actually scheduled for a spinal fusion before a couple weeks after I graduated. I was going to graduate, get the surgery, study, and take my boards. And then something just didn't feel right about it. I decided, you know what, maybe I just need to step back. Maybe if I just had time to rest and, get away from everything, maybe this pain would let up. I mean, I just was not excited about getting a surgery, and especially so young still. And I just didn't feel right about it. And on top of it, I had found out my BRCA gene was indeterminate. And so I was going through that with some genetic counseling, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And so the weird thing is I hadn't talked to my aunt in a while, and she gave me a phone call, and I was just laying it all out for her, oh, you wouldn't believe what I've gone through. And it's just been, you name it. And she said, Kim, you really need to read the China study. You really need to switch over to a plant-based diet. She said, it'll change everything for you. She was getting really heavy into it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. But I'm like, what do I have to lose? I mean, I'm in the worst shape I've ever been in. And so I did. I made the decision to just go for it, change everything. And really, I just started out, okay, I'm going to stop eating meat. But then it became, I'm going to cut out soda. I'm going to cut out my Starbucks. It's just those small things that I started doing that made all of the difference for me. I realized like, wow, I mean, just these small incremental changes I'm making are making a huge impact in my life. I started walking every day. I developed a morning routine. Here I'm listening to all this positive motivation, all of these things just feeding my mind healthy, eating healthy, sleeping, and truly it just changed my life. And I started thinking like, wow, I mean, these healthy choices, these healthy lifestyle changes, as NPs we're always talking about, well, they actually work. I mean, the pain went away and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I was actually healing myself. And yeah, it was an amazing experience for me.
Wow, that's amazing. Is your background in the ER?
Yeah. I
Okay.
did ER nursing for 15 years. And then I went to the urgent care for the last 5 while I was finishing up my degrees. And then I just became a practitioner in the urgent care. So that's kind of how I transitioned. So that's my background.
Alicia, you just started the plant-based.
Yes, that's why I'm really excited to hear you talk about plant-based eating, because I've started the journey actually in January, and I had shared this in another maybe it was in another episode, but how I had all my labs done. I kind of did this experiment with myself just to see, because I had high cholesterol, not super high, but like my cholesterol, triglycerides. I was anemic, and I had a thyroidectomy about 5 years ago. So even those, hormonally, that was out of whack. And when I went plant-based and I cut the meat out and I was just eating, just fresh vegetables and just really like being intentional about what I was putting in my body. When I had labs done in January, when I went back in June, right before I moved here, I mean, everything had self-regulated. Everything had went into, like, I looked at it and I was so happy with it. And I was like, this actually works. And I think, like what you were saying, as nurse practitioners, we're here and we're trying to teach and educate the people that we're trying to help. And, it's so important that we actually are the examples too, that we, and that's my whole, vision for myself actually moving forward, in nurse coaching and possibly, in holistic and integrative medicine and naturopathic medicine, is really to incorporate a lot of natural means of, healing that the body wants to heal. If you give it the, proper, opportunity, like it's amazing, So I'm just so happy to hear your success story. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, that's great for you too. I really believe it. And you really hit on something, being intentional with your life. I feel like, I was so focused on achieving. I was so focused on, excelling in school. And I feel like that's important, but I was really aimless with my health. I was unintentional and life was just happening. And obviously, it's crazy. A majority of my life, I had all this anxiety, about dying young, like my parents, and, losing my health. I don't want to leave my 4 kids, but here I was doing it to myself.
Exactly.
I was stressed out of my mind. And it was when I became intentional, I made that decision that it was like, wow, I mean, I am in control of my health.
Yes.
I can make these changes and I don't have to end up dying young.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what you said is true. It's just all about becoming intentional and making that decision that you want to change, and you can start now.
Exactly. And something I've recently realized too is like our bodies and our health is actually a gift. And, to be able to steward that and to give it the proper, nutritionally and even rest. You mentioned sleep, and stress and giving ourselves a break and being kind to ourselves and showing ourselves grace, and things like that. But I think, it's really awesome that just seeing our bodies as a gift and something that we can, either treat well or treat really bad, and that there's going to be consequences to it, and just even taking responsibility, and not just accepting, okay, like you mentioned, family members that died young, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen to you if you take the proper initiative and do what you need to do, and responsibility to just with the motivation and just realizing that you're in control of this, that you can make a change. So that's awesome. I love it.
Well, I will share with you the quote I kind of live by. It's just my mantra. I don't know if you've ever listened to Jim Rohn, but he's a huge mentor. He's long gone, but his words, they really transformed me during that time, because it was all about our life gets better when we get better, right? And I really took that and I really started living by that. It's like, if you want change, you have to make change. It doesn't just happen by chance. Like, you have to make those choices, and your life will get better when you get better. And I believe that. I live by it. And I just really feel that it's all about making that decision that you want to change, and then just, making those choices each day to do that.
It's awesome.
Did your kids, you rub off on them also?
I think so. Not 100%, obviously. I mean, I've got teenagers. Well, actually, I just have one left. He's 13. And then I have twins that just turned 20 and a 24-year-old daughter who's actually really getting healthy now that, she's in pharmacy school. She's doing great. But and my son, actually, my 20-year-old, he cooks healthy meals and he'll send me pictures. He just moved out. And so I'm still working on the young one. I mean, he likes sugar. I'm not going to lie. So I'm working on it. But I think it'll rub off. I think they see it. I think anybody that sees, what I was going through and what I am now, it's just hard to not believe in it.
Yeah. So why do you call yourself the 5-minute NP?
Well, it's funny. What happened was, and honestly, I'll just share with you guys, I'm an introvert by nature. I never thought I would be talking to people, like especially strangers that I didn't even know. And like, here I'm emailing them. I'm like, what am I doing? So really what happened was, I had gotten out of school. My life was changing. Everything was just like, wow, I feel amazing. I'm going to tell everybody about this, right? Well, COVID just hit around the same time. And so I'm on fire. I'm super excited. I'm sharing with patients. And then my director says, hey, we're going to have our patients stop coming in. We are going to have to lay some NPs off. And I was like, what? So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to start a page on Facebook called the 5-Minute NP. I'm going to start this just talking about small incremental changes and how it can lead to long-lasting impact, and really just my story and everything I'm learning. I just want to share. And I was doing that with my patients the short time I had them. It was like they're there for a cough, they're there for a runny nose, and here I'm like, are you sleeping? How's your stress level? Are you taking your vitamin D? I just realized my passion was so much greater than, just urgent care. I wanted to go beyond the treatment room and tell everybody about these things I was learning about, and that we can change our health through making daily changes, making small changes. And then also, I realized in as little as 5 minutes of time that I have, or just a small amount of time that I have with patients, that I have the ability to leave them with something motivational or something impactful, a health tip, maybe a new resource. And I do that all the time. And I don't know, you guys probably do as well, but just any little thing that I feel can add value to their life. And as simple as lately, I feel like I've told every patient, let's use the nasal saline first and irrigate our nose, and then use your Flonase. These are small little tips that you can offer, and it just doesn't take a lot of time, right?
Right.
And so then I started the page. I was having a lot of fun with it. And then I thought, you know what? I want to interview people in all areas of health and wellness that have an impact. And I'm going to start with the plant-based people. I'm going to reach out to Dr. Neil Bernard and some of those. And I don't know if you know who he is. He's huge in the plant-based world. Yeah. He's written 20 books. I literally had one episode under my belt, and I'm like, I'm going to reach out to him. And I'm like, he'll never say yes.
Good for you.
But I'm going to go for it.
That's great.
Well, then I get the little email back from his assistant. Oh, he would love to talk to you. I'm like, what?
That's awesome.
Now I have to interview him. What am I going to say? So yeah, that's just kind of how it started. And it just kind of reached out to people. And yeah, it's just kind of grown. And I'm actually working with somebody. I'm going to be doing some changes. I'm going to start doing 5-minute episodes. So actually 5-minute NP. And because really what I love about being a practitioner is the time I get to spend with patients and educating them. And I just feel like I can do more of that if I do small episodes. I can connect with people more, hopefully give more of my knowledge and grow through that, meet other people, and then still interview people in the longer format, maybe once monthly, because I really feel like, wow, you have so much to learn from other people, don't you? And it's just... So I'm looking forward to those changes, and I'm looking forward to still interviewing all different types of people and just see where it goes. I don't know. It's just something different, something to change and do a little more of, put a little more work into it. And that's the plan.
That's
hopefully.
Awesome. Yeah. Very inspiring, and even just something that you said about, the time that you spend with patients, and just even if you can impact their life with just something so small that can bring so much change, it's really a privilege that we have as practitioners, right, to impact people's lives like that. And we may never even see them again, right? Like it can be somebody you met in that moment or in the urgent care, because in the urgent care, you have your frequent flyers, but you have some people that you never see again. But when you can just plant that seed of encouragement or something, some life change that they can make, that can impact and change the whole course and direction of their health. It's such a privilege, right?
It is. I feel like
It's
it
awesome.
is just it's so rewarding. I think that's what I love about it. And just to see people leave happier than when they came. And I feel like that's just very rewarding to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Is there any guests that kind of stick out in your mind that you've learned the most from, or?
Yeah, there is. I mean, obviously I'm just super honored to interview everybody and I've learned so much, but like the plant-based people, Dr. Esselstyn, he was amazing. I was thrilled he came on. Dr. Bernard, Dr. Stancic, she was amazing. And you should reach out to her because she actually has healed her MS through a plant-based diet. And she's not had symptoms in over 20 years now. And she was literally...
What's her name?
Dr. Stancic.
Oh.
She directed the movie Code Blue, but great interview with her. Jerry Rediger, he wrote the book Cured. If you haven't read it, it's a great book. And it hit me because it was about those who had spontaneously healed from terminal illness. And as I read this book, it made me realize that we really do have to let everything go that weighs us down, right? Just like that quote says. And for me personally, I had to let go of all of these things that were making me sick. I mean, the stress was making me sick, trying to achieve everything, excel and do everything. Even as moms and as people, we try to do everything. And I was losing my health because of it. And that book just made me realize that these people that were in these circumstances, as they learned to give up all of the stuff that was weighing them down, they ended up healing themselves. To me, it was just an amazing book, and he was amazing to interview. And so him and Dr. Gary Lewandowski, he wrote the book Stronger Than You Think, and it was all about relationships. And it hit me because I don't think we realize sometimes the value of relationships and how crucial it is to our health. And the research has shown that, loneliness shortens our lifespan, right? So it's like, we really do need to spend a lot of time strengthening our relationships. And I felt like that was a really important interview and a really important topic. And so he was great. And the recent one, I don't know if you guys listened to, about Herman Poncer, he wrote the book Burn.
Yes.
And that was a good one because he was like blowing all of that stuff out of the water about all these different diets. And he was like, look, this is what the research on metabolism shows. This is what we've studied, and this is what we've found out. And so I thought he was really good to interview too. But yeah, again, I mean, you learn so much through everyone. But yeah, those are some of the ones that stood out to me.
Wonderful. That's awesome. And you just reached out to them, and they were just like, yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast.
Yeah, I did. I know it's crazy. And
That's awesome.
And also I think what I've had to learn, and it can be tough because, like I said, I'm an introvert. I've never done this before. My experience is obviously in the ER. It's all clinical. I mean, I'm not used to this, And so I had to learn, hey, not everybody's going to say yes.
That's
and
right.
That's okay. That's okay because there's always going to be good people to talk to. And yeah, so I think that was some things overcoming, just having a podcast is overcoming that, hey, they don't want to talk to me, but it's like, they don't even know me. They don't care. They're busy. It's fine, So yeah. I mean, it's funny. None of this stuff is a big deal to me because literally I was so nervous my first podcast, I didn't even record it. I didn't record it. So I had to go back and ask her to do it again.
Oh, no.
I was like, no. She did. I was like, thank you, Karen Dugan. Thank you for sharing this over with me. And then in one of them, my light, I had literally crashed. And I'm like, oh, let's cut that out. It's like, it's just life. That's just how you just roll with it, right?
I love that.
It's fun.
You've got to laugh.
Or you'll cry, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, Kimberly, I heard part of your journey. It was breaking up a lot for me, but it sounds like you've been through a major transformation and you've changed a lot of habits and you've taken control of your health. And I think that's so awesome. And I believe what you said about, small incremental changes having a big effect on your life and your health. And I think that's so great. I have been listening to your podcast. I think it's awesome. One question I have for you, especially with your transformation, if there's something that you've learned since you graduated with your nurse practitioner that you could go back and tell yourself, ahead of the game, what would it be?
Honestly, what I would go back and tell myself is enjoy the journey of learning and gaining knowledge and enjoy the learning aspect of it, and don't worry so much about the A and the, of course you want to excel and you want to achieve, but just really step back and just enjoy more of that learning experience. Because honestly, being a student, I just wish people would embrace that more, the learning just for learning and just growing and using that knowledge to, it's just, knowledge is power, but also how you can help others. And I try to tell my kids that, it's like, it's okay if you're just learning to learn, it's making good grades is wonderful, but just enjoy that learning experience.
Absolutely.
Wow.
What are some things that you do to help relieve the stress?
Oh, wow. Mainly, I really do stop to take those deep breaths I talk about. It's like, no, I really do implement that. I learned something from Andrew Huberman about physiological size, and it's this deep breathing technique where you take 2 inhales and then exhale long. I teach that to the patients too, they're for anxiety, and it really helps. And then just, again, changing my perspective on things, because, what they've studied is, again, we all have stress, but the way we respond to it, it really helps us manage it better. And I would tell you, I am more focused on sleep. I used to stay up all hours of the night, especially through school. I got this, I can stay up all night and study. I mean, I got to get that A, right? And then I got to go work 12 hours and then do, and it's like, no, I mean, now that I realize how important sleep is for our health and our well-being and our ability to cope with stress, ability to cope with things that don't go well. And, even as a provider, I mean, you want your provider to be on their game, right? And so I just realized that sleep is huge. And I've just definitely made it a priority in my life to get some sleep. It doesn't have to be a full 8 hours, but it is definitely a priority. And just taking more time for myself, like, hey, you know what? I need to take a hot bath. I need to relax. I need to just put more effort into that than I used to. It used to be about everybody else and I was last. And I think now that's kind of changed that. No, I mean, like, I want to be here for everybody else, right? So I have to take care of myself.
Right.
And it's okay. It's okay to take that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so true.
So part of our podcast is about kind of being advocates for nurse practitioners and like NP students coming right out of school. And we, a couple of our episodes, we talked about like the challenges that new nurse practitioners face after graduation. Did you struggle when you graduated from NP school? What was your experience like?
I think it helped that I was kind of already in that setting. I think what really helped me is the ability to just keep asking questions. I mean, it was hard because it's a fast-paced environment, and it was like, oh, well, wait a minute. What'd you say? And also just realizing that I don't have to know everything. I mean, you kind of feel that way when you get out of school because you're like, now I'm a provider. I'm expected to know everything.
Right.
And I had to realize, like, no, it's okay that I don't know everything. And it would be really scary if I thought I did. So asking questions. And I have some great resources that I carry with me, the Bates Physical Exam Pocketbook and some other resources that I hold with me that I use them all the time because, I want to document correctly and just those resources and asking questions and not being afraid of that. And hey, even with patients, it was like they would ask me something and I would be like, that's a good question. Let me think about that one and just go look it up.
Right.
It's okay. And that's how you
it's
learn. The
self-care,
more you
so
look
important.
up, the more you use your resources and you experience that again. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. So that's really helped me, I think.
And then at the end of your episodes, and I love this, you ask your guests a similar question, and I just kind of want to turn it around and ask you the question. What is the impact that you want to have on your patients and on the world?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier today when I knew I was going to talk with you guys. And it actually, like, what really hit me in my life and what kind of drives me is that it's kind of like that quote that it said, the problem is we think we have more time. Well, I feel like the impact that I want to have and what helped me was realizing that there are no guarantees in life. Health is not a guarantee. Our time here is not a guarantee. And so my message and what I want to get to other people is, why wait? Why wait till that crisis occurs? Why wait till you get that bad diagnosis? Take action now. Make those choices now. Take control of your health. And not only that, do more of what you love. Do more in life of the things that bring you joy. And stop wasting so much time on those things that don't. Because again, we don't know what life has to hold for us. And stop overthinking everything. I think a big problem with me, even through when I started making all those changes, here I was in the worst shape of my life. I'm drinking Starbucks, I'm eating Chick-fil-A, and I was overthinking eating an apple with peanut butter. I'm like, oh, they say peanut butter, is it really that good for me? And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Do you remember what you were eating? Here you're overthinking an apple and peanut butter. Let's be real here. It's like, stay focused. Just start. Stop worrying so much about all of those things. And I think also the impact I want is if I can just give somebody a little bit of hope and a little bit of motivation, and just letting them know that, like, today is here. The future we can change. So stop shaming ourselves. Stop worrying about what we ate yesterday. And just start and just focus now and stop worrying so much about all the other stuff. It'll fall into place. It's just, I feel like I've done my job if people leave happier than when they came, or if they've learned something or have added value to their life in some way. I think that's just really what I want to do. I feel like that's my gift, to just add value to people's lives while I'm here.
Right.
That's awesome. Where would you suggest someone would start? Where did you start?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is just to start. Make that decision. I think the hardest thing is just making the decision. How many people do you know that's like, they've got to get the perfect diet, they've got to go to the grocery store, they've got to have, I'm going to do, weight training. It's overwhelming. And then what happens? You do nothing because you're like, well, I can't do all that. I can't do all that. That's crazy. Well, you don't have to. It's like, just start. Make the decision. I want to live. Okay. That was kind of me. I want to live. I don't want to die young. So what do I need to do? Well, we all know processed food is terrible for us. We know soda is terrible for us. So let's eat less of that.
Right.
We know that exercise is the fountain of youth. We know it's what's going to keep us alive. So move more, do this 10 minutes and 3 times a day, or just whatever it takes. I feel like the key is just making that decision. It's amazing how when you just automatically, things start falling into place when you say, I'm going to do this. And you just start making those choices that, we all have choices, right? We choose to eat that donut. It's not forced down our throat. So we can make those choices to eat healthy and to get more sleep and to make those changes. But it's all a matter if we want to do that. So I feel like it's just amazing the things that can happen when you make that decision to start. At least that's how it was for me. And it was becoming more intentional with my life.
That's awesome. I think that's one of the nicest things that I like about the podcast and what you're saying about those small incremental changes. Like something old pastor of mine used to say is, you can look at this huge mountain in front of you and it just seems so daunting that it almost can freeze, your position to even move forward in anything when it comes to changes, because people are thinking just such drastic and big changes where it almost seems impossible. But, he used to say, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. So one small thing at a time, one step at a time, one new small change at a time. Like I love that whole concept, because then it does give people hope that this is doable. And then not approaching this lifestyle change as a diet, but just as this is what I'm going to do to, secure there is no guarantees, like you said, but I'm going to put myself in the best position for the best future to be in the best health that I can be. And that's all you can do. And, I love what you said, even just about, not shaming yourself. Like yesterday's gone, you can't change what you did, but today is now. And, just to have gratitude for the day and just do the next best thing you can do. And then you can look back a month, in 2 months and see how much you have changed. And, so that's just awesome. That's really encouraging.
I think one of the things you might have asked me was about, my advice to student NPs. And I think what I would want to say is to be the provider you wish you had or that you would want to see. Mm-hmm. And I think when you keep that as your core, you're going to do better. And also, I feel like history is what's overlooked a lot, but the history is one of the most important things
for sure,
or a part of the exam or the encounter, because that's where you're getting all your clues as to what's going on. That's where you're going to get your diagnosis. Right. And I think more time needs to be spent on the history. Mm-hmm. And patients want to be heard. They want to know you're listening to them.
Absolutely.
And even in that fast-paced environment, it's like, no, you can listen to what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal.
Also, I think I mentioned us using our resources, but also giving patients resources. I mean, the older people, they're on all these different drugs. It's like, I'll tell them about the beers list. This is a list you can Google and you should be avoiding these medications. Or, hey, why don't you download an interaction checker and make sure what you're taking, doesn't interact with it, because it's a lot of medicine. I think the more that we can educate them and provide them with resources, the more we're just empowering them in their health. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that part of it. I really do. I love being able to educate people and just, you're all growing and you're all learning from each other. It's just awesome. Well, I'm really honored you guys reached out to me. It's been so fun. And I really wish you great success with your podcast.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thanks
it's
so
great
much.
to do this. And it's just a whole different experience than being in the clinical setting. So it's really cool.
Thank you. And we wish you continued success. Yeah. Kimberly, I know we went over this in the beginning, but can you remind our listeners where they can find you?
I can be reached at the5minutenp.com. That's my website. And on Facebook and Instagram, I'm the 5Minute NP as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I would love to connect.
Wonderful.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing with us.
Thank you. It was great meeting you guys.
Same here. You're amazing.
Stay in touch. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to us and give us 5 stars.
If you have any ideas or comments, please message us at 4npspodcast@gmail.com.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 4NPs Podcast. That's the number 4NPS Podcast. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast, and go to our website at 4npspodcast.com for episode transcripts, resources, and more information about us.
Join us next time where we speak with Dr. Sandra Pagenta, the host of the Doctor Nurse Podcast. On her podcast, Sandra interviews nurses and advanced practice nurses and takes a dive into what they do in their careers. Her podcast explores the different options that nurses have with their degrees and asks the question, what else can I do with my degree? Every week, Sandra helps navigate the battlefield of the business of nursing with her listeners. We had a really great conversation with Sandra, had a lot of laughs, and we really can't wait to share it with you, so join us. The information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be used in substitute for professional care by a medical provider. The information in this podcast does not represent medical or other professional advice or services. The thoughts and opinions presented on the 4NPs podcast are of the hosts and guests and do not represent those of their employers.